Hi, this is Joe Speaks Truth. Just 3 years ago, New York City was placed under the harshest lockdowns out of the whole country. Well, things seem that they're going back to normal. I want to invite you all to listen to the untold stories of the many New Yorkers that had to survive lockdowns and vaccine mandates. Hello everyone, this is Joe Speaks Truth, and today I have Sean, also known as DVS 7.0. He has been freelancing for 7 years and is also a rapper. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Excited to be here with my good friend Joe, my fellow fighter over here.
Yes, so I met DVS before I met a lot of the other people from the medical freedom movement. And one of the reasons as to why I wanted to have him today is because as a rapper, I noticed, and not just myself, I think a lot of us noticed the fact that mainstream media rappers were going along with the agenda. And so I wanted to get his perspective on things. But before we start to talk about that, I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to become a rapper?
Well, I've been rapping since I was like 15. My first attempt at even trying, I noticed that I was actually pretty decent. And so I was like, wait a second, I could probably keep going with this. So, I mean, I did it since I was 15 and never actually released a song until like 2018, early 2018 or something. And then released like 3 singles completely off of politics, and then saw that there was a new opening for stuff that I like to talk about, which is politics, religion, things that are going on in the world, things that matter, things about my family or things that I go through, and I realized that there was finally a lane that I fit right into, because we kind of lost that after a few years, many years, since Pac and all the other rappers in NWA who were ready to go against, the grain and go against the government and talk about that stuff. And I finally found a place where I could come back to that and really talk about it in a new way, and also highlight that in everything I talk about, God is at the center.
So when the lockdown started, how did that affect your music career?
The lockdown, well, in a way, it kind of, it was a little tougher to keep my, to keep stable financially. But it's been quite some time that I've only been, I've been freelancing and doing jobs, just random jobs of whatever it might be, but mainly focusing on my music. It's been many years that I've been doing that, and during the pandemic, I feel like it was a downer, but it was fuel for me, and it helped me create some of my best content.
Okay, so talking about the pandemic, when they first announced that there was a global pandemic that required for the world to be shut down, what was going through your mind? Were you fearful, or did you eventually realize that something was off?
I definitely wasn't fearful. It was just more fuel for me. I've never been you can't stop me from whatever I believe or however, I intend to, go forward with my life. I don't see any powers that exist that will be able to at least mentally stop me. Perhaps they can physically somehow.
But when it comes to the fact that they were saying, hey, if you don't wear the mask, you're going to infect somebody or get infected yourself, do it for public health and safety. Regarding that aspect, were you actually scared that you were going to get infected with like a deadly virus or infect your family members and stuff like that?
Well, I definitely immediately suspected it was, a bioweapon or some type of attack on us. And so I was in the very beginning, you do wonder whether it's an actual attack and it's really something that can harm us. And so, in the very beginning, you have to ask those questions. What is it actually? Because I definitely believe that it was a purposeful, it was intended, it was meant as a weapon against us and against the world population. But, I wasn't so much afraid. I don't think I was really afraid, but I basically just winged it and saw what came of it. But I got COVID almost immediately. Immediately when it came out, literally in March of 2020. I got COVID, I'm only guessing because I didn't get tested, but I had all the systems.
And how were you able to get better? Like, what do you do?
I'm usually that's the reason why I suspected it was COVID, because I don't typically get sick, and if I do, it's over really quick. This was a little bit longer than usual, and it was kind of somewhat all of the symptoms. Plus, there was people around me that were sick as well at the same time. So it was just I'm assuming it was COVID. But what I did was a lot of vitamin C, a lot of liquids and smoothies and tonic water with quinine in it was supposedly something, but I just did healthy things. I didn't do anything particularly special or out of the blue. But I got better pretty quick, maybe 4 days. So
okay. So talking about rap now, I remember how the mainstream media was pushing the vaccines on Blacks and Latino people, right? And I noticed that in order to get them to go along with the agenda, they were mainly using rappers and other artists that have, I guess, a lot of influential power on the population, especially like on the youth. And I also can say that when it comes to like rap music, most of the messages that we have been receiving and that receive even now at a higher capacity, is about sex, drugs, and killing, right? And there was a point that when rap actually began, it was about rappers exposing the government or going against the machine, right? And it was actually educational and things of that nature, right? A lot of these artists and rappers, like I said, they promoted the agenda, right? So what do you have to say about that? What do you think that is? Because I know, and I can vouch for you that your music is pretty much, you do have your political affiliation and you rap about that in your songs. And you also, you spoke out against like the propaganda of COVID and all of that in your rap songs. You don't even curse, I curse, but you don't even curse in your music. So can you talk about that? Like how mainstream media has been, it seems like mainstream media rap has been hijacked, right? So can you talk about that?
yeah, actually, this topic is like very meaningful to me. So this is one of the things that bothers me the most. I grew up on Tupac, NWA, Bone Thugs, and Scarface, and all these rappers. And before, it literally the NWA, went against the system. They were against the system, and some of those same people from back in that time, from NWA time, like Snoop Dogg, they've all become like total simps, total slaves to the system, and now they're the complete opposite of what they started, and that bugs me like crazy because these guys are all talking about guns and all this really gangster stuff, and they're all the softest people that you see out there. All of these people are super duper soft. I see all these rappers now as like the softest batch of rappers that I've ever seen in my life. These people bend for the simplest thing, whatever government tells them, whatever dollar amount, all these things, they bend to it, and it bugs me like crazy. And that's why, by the way, another thing that's always stuck to me, Jay-Z bought Tupac's entire catalog of music, all of it. Jay-Z owns it. And before he did that, every year for September 13th or Tupac's birthday, June 16th, you'll hear Tupac music on the radio all day. It was just Tupac, 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 Tupac. That has slowed down heavily immediately after the purchase of Jay-Z. And guess what? Jay-Z's owned that catalog for almost like, I feel like it's almost been like 10 years now, or maybe 6, 7 years, perhaps even 10, that he's owned the entire catalog of Tupac, and everybody's like, "Oh, he bought the catalog. Oh, we can't wait to see what's gonna happen next with Tupac stuff because now Jay-Z owns it." Guess what he did? He didn't release a single song. Not a single song. Every year since Tupac died, a new album was released of all the content that he's made that can continue making albums for the next decade or two. And Jay-Z hasn't released a single one. Why? Because they're taking back the educational aspect of rap music, taking out the people who still keep having this name and having this legacy, taking them away. It's kind of like book burning, right? And that's because it's a purposeful that they want these rappers to talk pure nonsense? How do you hear an entire decade's worth of the exact same content? It's all the exact same stuff, just reworded. All of it. Money, hoes, cars. There's no substance at all in this music. And so for me, I was never, from the very first song I've ever written in my life until the very last one, I've never written about any nonsense. I've never written about hoes, cars, money, never in my life. Everything that I've ever written has always been about something that matters, whether it be my family or a situation that I'm going through or the things that are going on in the world. And so we have that now, and we are actually the biggest numbers. We are the best genre right now. This genre of rap, which is political rap, rappers that are talking about the real stuff that's going on, the awakened rappers, they're the biggest ones. We're constantly on top 10. You know, my very first album, I made 42 on the hip hop charts. You know, I'm not supposed to do that. I literally started. I had released 3 songs probably like 4 months prior, and then released an album. All of a sudden, I'm on number 42 out of nowhere. Meanwhile, nobody ever knew me, and that's because everybody's tired of the garbage. They want to hear stuff that matters.
So, I mean, growing up, I'm a 90s baby. Growing up, you know, a lot of the music that I saw was just like filled with very explicit topics and language. But what made you not go down that path? Because you could have easily just said, you know what, I'm gonna rap and just and talk about the same thing that mainstream media is doing, and perhaps you would have been even more popular and had more money. You understand what I mean? So what made you say, you know what, I could become more famous this way and probably have more money this way and probably be connected to people that have more money and access to even more opportunities? Why did you decide, you know what, I'd rather just rap and use my talent to actually put a message that's going to be beneficial for society, especially for the youth?
Well, so actually, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, first of all. I grew up not really liking Christian rap because it was always so corny and so cheesy, and everything is, you know, Ned Flanders, and that's the kind of. I mean, it was cool to listen to, but it's kind of like close but no cigar. They never meet the mark, and it's almost like rap. Like Christian rap is rap for Christians. Meanwhile, the Bible tells us it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but it's the sick. Right? And so if you're going to make music for, you know, your own little echo chamber, then what? What's the purpose? And because I was a Christian, I've never really, you know, cursed in my music. I've made some curse songs way back that weren't really meant for, you know, to be put out, but literally like 15 or more years ago. But now it's like, people are coming to our, you know, side of music because they didn't realize now Christians are rising up and they're involving themselves in politics and involving themselves in things that matter. And now, you know, people are seeing, just the secular world is seeing that, man, these Christians are actually pretty cool. Like they carry guns. They go, you know, to the faces of politicians. They fight for us. They have charities. They're you know, some of the most strong and unwavering people. They're fearless. They continue on and don't stop. And they're not soft, you know, not this Ned Flanders stuff you used to hear before. We talk about toting guns. You know, we got guns.
Right.
So,
yeah, the Second Amendment for sure. Why do you think that music plays such an important role in our society? Because I can spend the whole day listening to music, right? And it can either uplift me or it can take me, like, put me down. You know, there's certain music that, like, you hear the beat and you hear the lyrics and it can inspire you. Then there's some other songs that if you listen to the lyrics and the beat, it makes you want to fight somebody. And then there's the other ones that if you listen to it, if you went through a heartbreak, you can relate to it. It makes you sad and start crying or think about whoever or whatever. Why do you think that music is such a powerful weapon to either for evil or for good?
Well, that's right. It is for evil or for good. That's a good example because there's a suggestion in the Bible that suggests kind of that the devil was actually made out of, his organs were made out of musical instruments, like he had trumpets and organs of, flutes and all of this stuff. That's what his organs were. He was probably, the greatest singer to, ever, the greatest musical instrument ever to be created. But he was meant to be for good, but he fell down. Now, the reason why God gave him that power is because it is indeed a power. Music is memorable. You repeat it. It kind of gets the, just the melody and the different tunes and sounds. They get into you. But then when you add words that mean something, that matter to people's lives, and you add, substance and all that stuff, it's a whole nother ball game, because it's repetition. People repeat it, and that's the best way to remember something is by repetition, and so it submits itself into your long-term memory, and
so it's programming.
Right. So it can be used for both good or bad, like you said, but I mean, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes, there was songs. So do you think that taking this position of speaking out against the government has in some shape or form limit your ability to reach more people, or you feel like you're already on your way to reach a lot more people?
Yes, at first glance, it definitely looks like it's been a limitation. I have 7,000 followers on Instagram. And I can tell you that anytime I've ever done, a big live that I get 100, 200 new followers, within hours, I end up with like 20 of those 200, 30 of those 200. And so it's kind of been, at the first glance, it looks like a limitation, because they own big tech, they own social media, they own the screens, and they make it look like they are the majority. But the truth is, from just marching on the streets with everybody, I realized that we are the majority. We are the absolute majority. And so it might look at first glance like there's an actual win for them, but for me, it just gives me more fuel. And what lasts is the people that stuck around. Tupac is going to be a legacy forever, because he didn't just talk about it. He was about it. He was on the streets. I'm actively on the streets, and not just rapping it in my music. I'm actually doing these sit-ins. I'm actually going to these businesses. I'm actually, fighting the system actively on foot. And so I'm rapping about it too. And so at some point, people will remember that, and it'll be something that will last.
Do you have any regrets about the position that you have taken?
Not at all. Not even one bit.
Okay. And what is your final message to the world, especially for the youth that are trying to follow in your same footsteps?
A life is only but a breath. You're only here for 100 years. And if there's just only 100 years, and what's after that is eternity, what's the point of this 100 years? It's to live life, get successful, have a family, and then die, and then they have a family, get successful, buy a house, get a business. Is that really what it's about? For me, it's not. For me, there's only one purpose, and that is to live my life for the next step, for the next part, which is eternity. This right now is a preparation for real life when it begins. Real life begins when you die. And so for now, I'm here to kind of direct people to real life.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sean, aka DVS 7.0. And I'm glad that if your video comes across any other incoming rapper, that they listen to your words and to stop and think if it's worth rapping about this sex, drugs, and alcohol and all this nonsense, or if it's better to actually use your talents to inspire the next coming generation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. It was great to be here with my friend. Let's go.
Okay.